Thanks everyone for being here and checking out my overview and review of the CMMG 0 to 556 suppressor. I'll take it out in the range and compare it to a couple different cans that I have, along with shooting it on a couple different platforms and barrel lengths. But before you leave, please remember, hit the like and subscribe button. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today's video I'm going to be going over this guy here, which is my latest suppressor acquisition. It is the CMMG 0 556 full-size suppressor. Now the Zero line is CMMG's offering into what would be considered the budget line of suppressors that you see pretty prolifically available on the market today. I would throw this suppressor pretty much in the same category as the Otter Creek Labs Polonium series, the Resilient Stacy's Mom category, even the AB10 Warthog, amongst others. And by budget options, I mean within the price range ranging from sub 500 close to 600. So the zeroed, from what I've seen it for, the market rate that you see on these ranges between $550 to $575. I know CMMG, they MSRP it at $599.95. So definitely in that market for people who don't want to spend a ton of money on a suppressor, aren't really looking for the latest and greatest 3D printed technology, just want really good sound signature and having a standard baffle design. So I'm not going to go over all the stats and kind of bore you with that. I'm just going over some key points here. So the materials that the 0 556 is made out of is heat-treated 17-4 stainless, so definitely built for abuse. That also means it's not going to be your lightest can out there. Without a mount, just the can alone, it weighs 15.2 ounces. It is about 6.2 inches in overall length, not counting the mount. And it does have a black nitride finish. So I do definitely appreciate the black nitride finish in comparison to the majority of other cans that have high temperature Cerakote. So even though it may be high temperature Cerakote, it's definitely easy to mar up the can a little bit easier, like you see here on my Stacy's Mom K. See the marks here over on my Polonium K. Not really a big deal if you're considering your suppressors to be a tool, but to anybody who may be out there that is cares a little bit more about what the appearance of their can looks like, the black nitride finish is a bit more durable, as it is treating the metal itself instead of just spraying it on, and it also does have a flatter, more matte finish in comparison to cans that have been Cerakoted. Something else to point out is the blast chamber depth on this. Going from the end of the first baffle coming all the way down to the end of the can, I measured just under 1.8 inches. So the suppressor will definitely accommodate most muzzle devices out there, especially the longer ones that are used to pin and weld on 13.7 and 13.9 inch muzzle devices. The thread pitch on the back end is hub, which is your standard 1.375. They do include two direct thread adapters for this, one of them being 1/2 by 28th and the other one being 5/8, which I found kind of interesting for a 556 can. You don't really see a lot of muzzle devices or barrels with threading that's 5/8 that's going to shoot 556 or 223, but it comes with it. One of the things that I found extremely useful amongst all the different cans that I have is when they have wrench flats on them, if you need to break this loose, or whether you want to have something to grip onto when you are torquing down the muzzle adapter. So with this here, you can see I have the hub QD mount on here. But what really is different when it comes to the Zero line, as you see, there are no wrench flats on there, but at the very end, we do have a cut for a 3/8 drive. So you could use any type of 3/8 drive. So whether it be here, like with this breaker bar that I have, or using a torque wrench to torque it down, it gives you something to get some really good leverage on. If you're trying to tighten down a muzzle adapter, or if you're trying to break loose the can itself, if it had gotten a little bit of carbon locked onto your can. All right, so now that we have some of the data points out of the way, let's talk about shooting impressions. So I was definitely very eager to get my hands on this can, and I do appreciate CMMG sending this out to me to try out. I don't have any full-size dedicated 5.56 cans other than my Huxworks HXQD. I do have the OCL Apollo K, the Apollo 30, and then the Stacy's Mom K. But I don't have any other full-size can to compare it to. I think if you're going to do more of an apples and apples comparison, is if I had the full-size Polonium. As you see here, probably the closest in size anyway. When you look at the Polos, if you were to line them up end to end, you do see that the zeroed 5.56 is very slightly longer than the Apollo 30. Just for reference, the Apollo 5.56 does have the exact same diameters in length as the 5.56 and the 30 together. So when it came down time to shoot this can and try it on a few different platforms, I did want to have a pretty wide array. So I took it out. I probably put about 450-ish rounds through this can using different platforms. So from an AR standpoint, I took my 10.3 Mark 18. I took my 12.5 carbine build, and then I took the HK MR 5.56A4 in 16 inches. When it came to like AK type platforms, I did take my Polish Boreal in 5.56. That one was chopped down to 14.5-inch barrel, pin and welded. And then I also brought out my IWI Galil Ace 13 inchers. One of them being a Gen 2, one of them being a Rock and Lock. So to start off, I will say that this can, being a standard baffle design, it is really gassy. And again, that is to be expected from this type of design here. I know the Polonium series are definitely known to be gassy as well. And really no difference here with the 0556. Even shooting a 16-inch piston-driven gun like the MR 5.56A4 did get quite a bit of gas coming back to my face. Obviously, I'm a bit more sensitive to that since I am a left-handed shooter. But that is suppressed life, and that is definitely suppressed life when you are using standard baffle cans such as the 0556. Now, when it comes to flash suppression, I was shooting this midday, but I will, looking back at some of the video that I shot, I didn't see any jet of fire coming out of the end of it like I have seen in some of my other cans. So definitely very happy with that. Now, when it comes down to sound signature, like I previously mentioned, I don't have any other full-size standard baffle cans to compare the 0556 to. But, between having the OCL Apollo K, the Apollo 30, along with the Stacy's Mom K, and then I also wanted to go ahead and throw in the Huxworks Flow 762 Ti. This is one of my more favorite cans that has excellent sound to it. Really does a great job at suppressing sound. So while not an apples to apples comparison between any of these four cans here, I have been very happy with all four of these. So I wanted to go test it out and see how the 0556 was going to compare to those. Shot some rounds first with the 0556, and initial impressions was that's a really good sounding can. Definitely has some good tone to it. It's easy on the ears. And so I think what really caught me by surprise was when I went ahead and started running some testing. So I ran the different platforms, different barrel lengths, through the paces first with just shooting the 0556. Before that, I moved on to kind of comparing them side by side with some of these others here. All right, so next I'm going to do a little bit of a comparison. So obviously not going to be an apples to apples, but I have a couple cans here that I'm curious about. Some other people might be curious about as well, as far as tonal sound between the both of them, and then maybe also gassiness. So the two platforms they'll be running on, they're both 13-inch Galil Aces chambered in 5.56. Obviously one's an R&L and one is a Gen 2, but they should be relatively the same. Both have K&S pistons that have been adjusted to 5 clicks open. So this is about as same as I can get, at least with the guns that I have. So let's get to it. And I was very pleasantly surprised to hear a very noticeable difference between the 0556 and these other four offerings here. And what I mean by that is that it was definitely quieter than these other cans here. Now with the Apollo K. Back with the zeroed. All okay. I may have a couple shots left. So, zeroed 5.56 full size is definitely quieter than the Apollo K. As far as gassiness goes, I didn't really notice a difference between the two of them. All right, so next up is going to be the Polonium 30. Yep, definitely hear a difference between those as well, with the 0556 being noticeably quieter. All right, so next can to compare it to is going to be the Huxworks HXQD 556. Roughly the same size as the 0556. Obviously, this is a flow-through can. Also, a little bit of an older of the Huxworks cans, not as quiet as the Flow TI series. Yeah, also again, 0556, much quieter. Last but not least here, I'll compare the 0556 to the Flow 762 Ti. This is definitely one of my more favorite cans, very quiet, so see how it stacks up. Holy shit. Wow. So looks like the Flow 762 couldn't even stack up. I'm super surprised about that. No, I don't have, fancy testing equipment that can accurately record decibels. I did watch Mr. Guns and Gear's review on the 0556K before I got my can in hand and started shooting it. I did see from his video, which he does have the legit testing equipment to measure decibels. With the K version, which is obviously shorter than the full size, he was getting around 134 decibels with the K, which is super impressive. But I will say that, decibel ratings are one thing, and then tone. So how the human ear hears a sound. I feel to me it's definitely more value than it is just getting decibel ratings. So, the tone on the 0556, it does have a nice tone. It's a little bit higher pitched than what you would get out of the OCLs. One of the cans that I did not bring out there with me was going to be the Stacy's Bomb K. If you watch my video on that one, I mentioned how when you're using the fully vented end cap of the Stacy's Bomb K, there is a noticeable difference between the OCO Apollo, whether it be the K or whether it be the 30. Again, unfortunately, I didn't bring this one out here when I ran the 0556, but there was definitely a noticeable difference in sound between this and the OCL offerings for the better. So, when you're looking at price point, I mentioned that these can be found from between $550, $575. Where it comes to the OCL offerings, you can typically find these for between $520, $530-ish. So you're going to spend a little bit more money on the Zero than you would with the others, but it does come with a little bit better sound than what you get between the OCL offerings. Now, when it comes to back pressure, like I did mention, the 0556 is definitely a gassy can. There are ways that you can tune an AR, whether it be with different heavier buffer weights, or even if you go with a BRT gas tune to reduce the gas flow coming back to you. I will say that with the AK pattern platform, so whether it be my Baril chambered in 556, whether it be the Galils, I do have KNS pistons in all of them, making the appropriate adjustments to get good gas flow out of them. Definitely notice the gas less with those AK pattern platforms than you would with the AR 556 offerings that I was testing out that day. All right, so that about wraps up this video of the CMMG 0556 can. When it comes to whether I would recommend it or not, absolutely, I would recommend it. Very, very good sounding can, really reduces the sound signature, does a great job when it comes to flash suppression, which I don't know if it has something to do with how it's recessed down into the 3/8 opening here, but a great can. Again, not going to be your lightest can that you're going to find out there, not made out of the latest and greatest technologies, but very good can. Especially helpful having the black nitride finish on here, which keeps it very nice and even looking. I like this can so much, and they do offer different offerings out there in different calibers. Like I mentioned, the 556K, they have a 30 cal offering, they have a 36 cal offering, and they also have a 46. So, like this can so much that I think I'm going to go ahead and give a shot at the 46 and run it in comparison to my Silencer Co. Omega 45K, and then my Dead Air Primal. You know, the dimensions and the weight and everything on the 0 to 46, it's kind of going to fall in between those, so definitely interested in trying that out. Once that video is made, I will release it out to you. So before you leave, please make sure that you go hit the like button and subscribe. Share the video, really helps out with the YouTube algorithm out there, and we'll see you in the next one.